We're very happy tonight to have as our evening entertainment the NOAC News folks, and I'm going to ask Kathy Reed, who is their intern and evidently key grip, to introduce them. They are brought to us tonight by Brethren Benefit Trust.
When Debbie emailed me and asked me to introduce the NOAC News for tonight's program, I began to think it probably wasn't as easy a job as it sounded. I remember all too well when I first came to the Association of Brethren Caregivers in 2004, having staff sit me down and try to explain what the NOAC News was. Some of you may have had that experience of coming back after a wonderful week here at Lake Junaluska, going home, meeting friends and family, and you start to tell them about the highlights of your week, and you're stuck. Because what can you say? You have to be here to see it, right? It happened again last week when I tried to explain to the staff that I work with now in Waco, Texas, that I was so excited about being accepted as an intern to the NOAC News, and they wanted to know what the NOAC News was. Personally, not to get too serious on you, I do think that humor is one of the greatest gifts that we have. And one of the things I am most proud of during the time I was at the Association of Brethren Caregivers is working with Mary Lou Garrison on the Lighten Up campaign. Some of you will remember that, where we told Brethren folks to lighten up in so many ways. Get healthy, get well, and also laugh at yourself every now and then. I come from a family where my dad was known for his sense of humor. And one of the things I remember about my mentor, Ken Brown at Manchester College, now Manchester University, was Ken telling us that you have to laugh in the face of evil, and you have to use humor to overcome your opponents. Joy and laughter is the perfect resistance to the politics of fear. And we live in an age and a time where our world is filled with the politics of fear. And many of us find us once again in the struggle for human rights and against the abuses and militarism of the world we live in it. And it's going to take a lot of humor to overcome that. And therefore, I say with joy and laughter, what a great gift it is to have the NOAC News team be part of this conference. How I wish other parts of our church and our congregations had their own version of the NOAC News, because we would be a better people if we laughed even more than we do. And so it is my great honor to introduce to you the NOAC News team, Dave and Larry and Chris.
Hi.
Is this our script?
I believe it is.
Okay.
Oh, that was close. If Kathy thinks it's difficult to explain what NOAC News is, it's difficult for me as well. I can't really explain it either. All I know is it began about 1996. In 1994, the second NOAC, I was asked to come and do a wrap-up video of all the events that happened during the event. And Chris Stover Brown was my intern, and so he helped with that, and we did a wrap-up in 1994. In 1996, Jay Gibble decided that these announcements were getting out of hand. It would be easier and more creative to have video announcements. And so he came up with the idea of doing video announcements at every session. And at the time, there was a problem with the trolley. It's a well-oiled machine right now, but at that time, people were confused about where it stopped, when where it went, and we were asked to kind of do something about the trolley, kind of an announcement that explained how the trolley works. And
so,
we were confused at the time.
Yeah, so the idea was to take something that was a difficulty and turn it on its head, use some satire, laugh at ourselves, laugh at the problem, and to help us not feel so bad about it, I guess. And people were walking along the road and trying to get the tram to stop, but they had been instructed to only stop at specific places that were tram stops. And so I used that as the idea then to try to be demanding the tram to stop wherever I wanted the tram to stop. And so I tried various techniques. I made my own tram stop sign. I grabbed a NOAC participant with silver hair who was female, and kind of crouched behind her and tried to get them to stop for her, and they wouldn't stop. So various ways of trying to get the tram to stop. And ultimately, I ended up having to lay down in the road in order to try to get the tram to stop.
They won't stop for anything. I mean...
If you would just go to a regular stop, a tram stop...
No way. I gotta have my own stop because, it has to be convenient for me.
Okay.
All right, so
what are you gonna do?
All right, it's come this far. I'm gonna put down the tram stop sign. So
but he didn't stop when you tried that last time.
Well, I know, but see, the difference is this time I'm gonna lie down the street and he has to stop.
No, it's not that. Chris, you can't just lie there. The tram is coming. The tram will be here any minute. You're going to stay there and you think he's going to stop?
Yes, he'll stop. He has to. There's no way he'll run over me. Well, that didn't work.
And through the week, we kept running with that same bit about the tram. And finally, at the end of the week, we just had the ultimate in which Chris just stole the tram.
Is there audio? Oh, there we go.
We were clearly all in much better shape back in 1994. But that process kind of made us realize that this audience does appreciate incidents in which we don't take ourselves all that seriously. And so here's a couple other things that we did that year. One of them was one I'm going to show you in which the workshop leaders were introduced the same way football players and baseball players get introduced at an event. And it was really remarkable, the level of cooperation by people who you would not assume would participate in this kind of hijinks.
Bob Gross! Bob Gross! Bob has been in NOAC 3 times from Indiana, and his interest is old enough to know better. Peace activism in the golden years. Barb Saylor! Barb Saylor's a rookie with the team this year from Maryland. How do I talk to my grandchildren about peace? Woo-hoo! Jim Kinsey! Jim Kinsey! Two NOACs. From Michigan, Abrahamic meets the Apostle Paul. All right. Lowell Flores. Lowell Flores been in NOAC 3 times from Kansas and Indiana. Where have all the leaders gone? And Teresa Eschbach teaming up with Lowell. Teresa's been to NOAC 3 times from Pennsylvania and Indiana. Where have all the leaders gone? Grady Snyder. Grady Snyder's been to NOAC 3 times, comes from Illinois. Aging and life prolonging technology. Dale Brown. This is Dale Brown's 4th NOAC from Pennsylvania. Continuing reactions to September 11th.
Some people are clearly... And we got participation from Bob Faust for a spot we did on the workshops.
Been wondering about the interest group sessions that are going to be taking place on Tuesday, today and Wednesday. And I see Bob Faust here is looking at his book. Morning, Bob.
Good morning.
Could you tell me a little bit about the interest group?
You know, I've just been looking at those myself. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of them. Here's one on developing a vision, which I think sounds really interesting. The art of prayer, growing up normal. I think I'd like to see that one myself.
Good. Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you. They sound really interesting.
Well, there's some more. Fullness of joy through God's pharmacy. There's one on choosing death, which could be interesting. Anger, who is responsible? Brethren and the religious right.
Well,
I think that one sounds really interesting.
Thank you, Bob. They all sound really interesting and really a good option. We're sort of running out of time now, so I better get going.
Okay.
Thank you a lot.
Well, there are a few more that I'd like to tell you about.
Well, I've really got to go now.
Here's one on being a wise guy, sharing the journey.
Really got to go, Bob.
A lot of them have to do with stories.
Thanks, Bob. You're right.
Stories.
I've got to go. I'm out of time now. I really got to go.
My grandchildren, finding the storyteller in you. Why can't we all get along? Politics, biblical wisdom in the gospel. The caregiver trails, living out Matthew 18, having your cake and eating too. Humor.
So in 1998, I joined the team, having no idea what I was getting into. But the reason I came with Dave that year was that Chris couldn't come right away. He couldn't show up right away. So instead of just saying, well, Chris will be here later, of course, we decided to turn it into a skit. And we termed that, well, where's Chris Brown? And as usual, a lot of the NOAC participants would help us out with that. Sometimes they didn't quite get the idea, but eventually they did. Let's see how that worked
Interview a
out.
little bit.
What about?
Just what you do as a bus crew, and we want to ask you a question, and that is if you've seen Chris Brown.
Yes, I think so. I saw Chris, but I'm not sure. I didn't see the little...
Yeah, he's not here yet.
Oh, no,
so just say no?
No, I haven't seen Chris.
Yeah, okay. All right, you ready?
All right.
Oh, that's a great service. We appreciate that.
Then we take their luggage to where they're housed.
Okay.
After they find out where they're going to be
staying. Well, that's great. Well, thank you, Claire. Before I leave, just one question. Have you seen Chris Brown anywhere come off these buses or anything?
No, is he here?
I don't think he is, but thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Claire. Have a good day.
So it sort of began as a way of turning irritants into something that we can laugh about. And a more recent manifestation of that is an example you saw this evening in terms of standing in line, and so doing things to take up that time when you have to be patient and stand in line. And the one that we worked at was, well, let's just watch it.
And now something we call top 10 things to do while you're standing in line. Here's number 7.
Want to play whack-a-mole with us? Sure. All right. So this is your hitting device, and you're going for the mole. Here, Blair, we got to bring it down.
What? Bring it down?
Hit it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you got to hit the mole. Okay. When it comes up, you have to hit it. There you go. All right. You missed it. There you go. Try that. There you go. So I'm going to pass out these rubber gloves. These are, you all are going to have an activity here. Okay. Here you go. Rubber gloves. Okay, so now you'll need to stretch the end a little bit.
That's good.
Right here. Okay. And then you put it up over your head like this. Like that. It just fits like a glove. So once you've got it on you, then you just go like this, and you can blow it up. Okay. So you just keep on breathing in through your mouth and exhaling through your nose. Just keep on doing that. Keep on doing it. They're afraid. I think somebody might need to help pop it. It's not. Oh, there we go. Oh, goodness. Did you guys get them really big? Did you get them really big? Did it work? Yeah. We got it. You got it? Oh, good.
When Chris first brought that to us, we thought, where in the world did you get that idea? And we'd like to hear that from Chris right now.
I think you thought, why would we even do that? Yeah, so a friend of mine at my church, Oak Grove Church of the Brethren in Roanoke, Virginia, there's somebody already knows who it was, I guess, did that, showed me how to do that. He was a youth in the senior high youth when I was moving from junior high to senior high, and so I was mentored in this activity.
Thank goodness for mentors.
Mentors are good thing.
Mentors are great.
Good thing. Yeah.
By a good Brethren youth. So, I mean, it's good, clean fun. Well, usually clean. Then we decided we were going to do a workshop here, right? That we could have everyone learn how to do this.
It takes a while to pop sometimes. That's the problem. That's the variable you have to look at.
So in at the 2008 annual conference, Kathy, who was director of ABC, I guess at that point, asked us to do a promo to have people come to the NOAC in the fall of 2008. So we decided, well, we sort of know what we can do, and Dave actually got a camera up on the stage at annual conference, and Chris and I started out together, and then we'll see what happens.
And welcome to NOAC at Lake Junaluska, where I'm going to teach you how to blow up a rubber glove on your head, because it's a required activity. Now, here you go. This is very important to be able to learn how to do this. You put it over your nose first, get on your head like this.
Please listen.
And then you're going to inhale through your mouth and exhale through your nose.
You do not have required activities at NOAC. You just do not have to worry about that. I hope you'll come to NOAC. This year's theme is Come to the Waters. What a beautiful theme to think about when we're there at Lake Junaluska. People like to take hikes around the water. It reminds me of how nice the weather is there. It's in Carolina, the mountains, the lakes. There's no hot air there at Lake Junaluska. And there's an expanding list of activities and interest groups, worship, so many wonderful things to do. It's just such a beautiful place. If you haven't registered yet for Come to the Waters, NOAC 2008, please still register. Come, be with us, enjoy it. It's such a blast. It's just so fun and so wonderful to be there together. You know, I can't imagine a fall in the even years not going to NOAC. It's just so wonderful. And people keep coming and coming. And they just keep
Well, that's it for the NOAC news. back to you at the ABC News Desk, Kathy and Eddie.
All right. That was the first time anyone had blown a balloon up at a conference, on the annual conference. So,
You sure that's the first time anyone blew up a rubber glove on their head at an annual conference?
that's the first time ever recorded.
Oh, recorded. Gotcha. Hey, what are you...
Whoop.
I can still remember that time because we thought that thing was going to pop a long time before it did. And I just ran out of things to say. Just kept trying to come up with things to say. But we did understand through reliable sources that skit at annual conference did lead to at least one person registering for NOAC.
Another trademark of our antics through the years has been the throwing stuff off buildings. We really, that was part of what David Letterman did and made popular off the Ed Sullivan Theater, and oftentimes just to see it smash. And a lot of times there was not a real purpose in throwing things off the buildings. It's just that it was fun to watch them fall. And here at Lake Junaluska, we have a perfect opportunity with the terrace, with the balconies, and nobody really walking underneath there. So it's a perfect place to do that. And so we would kind of try to throw things off there, and oftentimes it was ice cream as a way of publicizing ice cream socials.
What are you guys doing up there?
Oh, we've got some really good ice cream.
Oh, it's great stuff, Chris. Great ice cream.
Well, can I have some?
Sure. Here. Here. Here, Doug. Oh, God.
Hey, Chris, there's an easier way to get ice cream this evening. Well, Bethany friends and alumni just need to come to third floor terrace to the cafeteria for ice cream tonight. You don't have to go through those kinds of heroics.
And later on, we would have a drop of the day, which would be sponsored by something like Brethren Historical Library and Archives or the Ada River or something like that. And it was basically just to be able to see things fall.
1, 2, 3.
Isn't that enjoyable?
Warms my heart.
You really love it, don't you?
I love to see that. That's just...
And our third
That's so
team
cool.
drop is a water buffalo. Well, we couldn't find a water buffalo, so we have a teddy bear dropping in for the water buffalo. Here we go. Here, hold it. It's heavy. It's a heavy one. Heavy. Are you ready? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, shoot.
Not much point in it, just amusement, our own amusement. And, no.
However, we did, that didn't last too long, some of those things, but we did have a memorable drop of a watermelon that through through truck photography that Dave can do was able to look like it hit Chris on the head. It started, of course, with one of our favorite co-conspirators, Eddie Edmonds, accidentally bumping a watermelon that was, for some odd reason, sitting on the railing up at the balcony at the terrace.
Happens all the time.
All the time.
And of course, Larry is much more concerned about the watermelon at this point than he is with Chris. So a lot of the attention is given to the watermelon to try to figure out what we're going to do about that.
So we began to sense that wasted food was not exactly a brethren value. There was a bit of sort of political backlash to that. And so in 2009, we decided to redeem ourselves. At least we thought. redeeming a perfectly good watermelon that some other news crew, another news crew, had thrown on the ground, and it became an instant hit.
Well, how can we redeem this situation? Chris, I know it's a stretch, but what if we go up there on top? You know, that must have been where they threw it all. What if we go up there and try to make it whole, try to redeem it?
Sort of reverse the process.
Reverse that. You think we can do it?
If we have faith.
Amen. I can't believe what I just saw, Chris.
This watermelon, it's been redeemed.
It's whole again.
Just like we've been redeemed.
We saw it. I guess you could say we saw it when we believed it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Good one. Exactly.
Good one.
And one of the ways we can do that sort of thing was the advent of digital editing, with all the ways we can freeze frame and reverse things, which we did in that situation. And the other thing we've learned how to do is to combine shots. We take 1/3 of an image, another third of a screen, another third of a screen, and edit them all together with different things happening. We do that a lot with Alexander Mack when Alexander Mack appears suddenly, and Larry's in the same shot. And we did a spot to promote BVS a couple years ago that we're not sure people really fully appreciated, because it was very difficult. We shot the same thing 3 times and had 3 people, the same 3 people in each of the segments of the spot. And well, here it is.
Why did you get this spot?
There are 3 Chris's, 3 Larrys, and 3 Dan McFadden's.
Well, okay, class, come to order. Come to order. You know, today we're recognizing Brethren Volunteer Service, and so I see some of you have your shirts on. That's really good. Your shirts, especially this 60th anniversary one. I'm sure there's still some available in the bookstore. But so the question today is, what are you going to do when you retire?
I'm going to watch TV all day.
I'm going to play golf until my arms fall off. I'm going to join every sports fantasy league I can.
And I'm going to continue using more than my share of the world's resources. I'm going to change the world. I'm going to join BVS, and I'm going to work at a homeless shelter.
I'm going to change the world. I'm going to join BVS, and I'm going to work for peace.
So, did any of you change your mind?
We're going to change the world!
And all 3 of those were shot. If you can go back to the screen, all 3 of these, there's 1/3 that was shot at one time, the middle was shot at a different second time, and the right group was shot at a third time. And then they were all overlaid on top of each other, so it looked as if there were 3 of each person.
You can just barely see the dividing line there between, well, one of me and Larry, where Larry's arm is getting cut off just a little bit.
Yeah.
Ooh, that hurt.
That was as good as we could do. The other recurring theme in what we do sometimes is Brethren heritage and history. We incorporate that into our bits. All 3 of us are actually graduates of Bethany Theological Seminary, which makes you wonder why they didn't sponsor us tonight. Had to have BBT do it. Maybe because they don't think of us as examples of academic dignity. I don't know. Who knows?
Speak for yourself, Dave.
Okay, well, this next spot is one of my favorites, but it's kind of the way in which we bring in Brethren heritage and kind of look at it in an odd kind of way.
I'm at the booth for the 300th anniversary of the Church of the Brethren, and I'm so excited because there's a Bible here from 1776 from Christopher Sauer Jr.
Hi.
This is just amazing.
Christopher Sauer Jr. Was the son of the senior. The senior and I were friends.
Wow.
In early America, and you know, Christopher Sauer Jr. Had this printing press.
Yeah.
And they made him shut it down because he was against the Revolutionary War, and they made him shut down his press. And this is a Bible.
Amazing.
Christopher Sauer, isn't it wonderful?
Can we get it out of the glass? I want to hold it.
Oh no! You see, we're trying to preserve. Oh no! Please don't do that, Chris. No. Oh.
Wow, this is fabulous.
You shouldn't be holding this Bible. It should not come out of the case, Chris. Oh, don't flip the pages. Please don't do this. Oh gosh, I can't imagine what senior would think of this.
Wow.
Please don't do this. Oh, be careful with the water. Don't hold the Bible. Don't be careful.
What's the big deal? What time is it anyway?
No.
What's the problem? It's 12:30. Oh no!
Oh, get this dried up.
Oh no!
You know that being careful is part of the manner of the living. That's how you know we are brethren.
No ideas were harmed in the making of this evening's NOAC News. However, we did ruin a priceless Sauer Bible. But don't tell the 300th Anniversary Committee. Let's just keep this between us.
So, of course, that was probably a dictionary that I was holding. You know, it's trick photography. We make it look...
The actual Sauer Bible was there.
It was really there under the glass case, and we really didn't take it out of the glass case. You probably already knew that.
Didn't get it wet.
Right. So part of our arsenal of tools, as you might call it, is that you saw in that segment is using Alexander Mack. We're blessed to have the leading impersonator and educator of all things Alexander Mack on our team, Larry Glick. And so we've often turned to him for help. In fact, we took him to National Youth Conference, and because of, at the time, a lot of sports figures were being called by their first initial and last name, he became known as AMAC. So when he was Alexander Mack, not Larry. Anyway, Larry as Alexander Mack. So he was referred to as AMAC. It really caught on. The youth loved it. It was AMAC, everything, all over the place. AMAC. It still is, right.
But that's the first time.
Yeah, that was the first time. That was 2006, right? Mm-hmm. We've turned to him several times. There was a bologna cookbook that we had in 2013. We were trying to decide whether to do that, Larry and I, and so we turned to Alexander Mack for advice, and he suggested that we reach for our dreams.
You know, boys, I believe that if you were seeking the mind of Christ, you can turn this disappointment into a new venture, a renewed venture of energy and renewed discipleship.
What does that mean, you think?
Maybe we can publish our cookbook.
Our NOAC News cookbook.
Yeah.
That's a great idea, Chris. Well, thanks, AMAC.
Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome. But remember, boys, as your healing springs forth, remember always to count the cost.
Oh, you know, maybe we should take this to Brethren Press.
That's a great idea. Let's go.
All right.
Another of the trademark practices of NOAC News, I feel, is that we make fun of the popular culture. And that's because we subscribe to another way of living. And what better way of celebrating that than to make fun of the other way of living, the kind of living that we feel is not consistent with Brethren practices and beliefs. And so we came up with a phrase one year.
Yeah, this couple of examples we have. The phrase, "We're here for you," It was a trite cliche that was being used by many companies, many businesses, to try to convince us as customers that it's not about corporate profits, but they do it because they really care for you. So in 2004, while showing people around the exhibit hall, lo and behold, that phrase began to turn up everywhere.
Welcome to the Bethany Theological Seminary booth. We have lots of information here. We want you to come by and meet the Bethany staff and register for our drawing of 2 Bethany sweatshirts, 2 Bethany caps, and 2 new Centennial coffee mugs. Grab a mint, candy, piece of chocolate,
well,
and
thanks
also
very
a
much.
pin.
Oh, you have a pin.
Don't forget, we've got
yeah.
pins too with our new slogan, "We're here for you."
We're here for you. Okay. Everybody is here for
Thanks
us.
for coming.
Yeah, thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thanks a lot.
And we have mutual aid exchange pins.
Mutual aid exchange
And it has
pins.
our new logo on it.
Which is?
We're here for you.
Oh, good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Now, we just take a little move right here to the Brethren Press.
And don't forget to pick up one of our pins.
Brethren Press pin.
Yeah, a Brethren Press pin.
And the theme?
We're here for you.
Wonderful. Okay, let's move on real quickly here. We got just a few more exhibits that we want to show you.
Welcome to the Palms of Sebring.
The Palms of Sebring.
Yes, indeed. For those of you who'd like to retire to sunny California, what?
Southern Florida would be.
Oh, California. I meant to say Florida. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Pardon me. So please come by and pick up a pen. See, we got pens right here. We got pens
in the bowl there.
Pens in the bowl. With our logo, we're here for you.
The Palms of Sebring. We're here for you. Okay,
Absolutely.
very good. Thanks so much for your time. And that's our exhibit hall. Please come over. And don't forget, we're here for you.
As we're showing exhibit hall segments, I can't let this go by without showing my absolute favorite segment of the exhibit hall, and that was when Russ Madison was the marketing director for Brethren Press, and he was trying to show us what was available at Brethren Press, and he did not miss a beat. He just kept on doing it, even though Chris was up to his usual antics.
We're delighted to have Russ Madison from Brethren Press, who's coordinator of the NOAC bookstore, with us today. He's going to give us sort of a quick tour. How rude. A quick tour of the bookstore and all the things that are available for us. Russ, take us through.
We've got lots of great things. We've got some really good devotional kinds of pieces like Watch for the Light. We've got a journal when you're spending your quiet time there along the lake shore, a book of sermons. Something here for your grandchildren to look at and to read. Something to take home. Clothing. You have to get clothing. This fleece on those cold Lake Junaluska mornings, there's nothing better than that fleece. Tony Campolo reminded us we should be aware of things like peace, little powers that be, some light reading for by the lake shore. Let's see, the Heritage CD-ROM. Lots of good things for you to look at there as far as understanding Brethren Heritage. We've got Brethren Music, the hymnal supplement. We've got CDs. We've got performers books. Things like by Richard Morgan and by Marty Richards, Katie Funk-Weeby. Lots of good things here. Oh, and don't forget Tony Campolo stuff. Lots of good books by Campolo. You never get enough Tony Campolo. We've got resources, we've got resources on aging. We've got everything you'd need for your deacon ministry back home right here. So make sure you get some good deacon resources. A couple deacons manuals, all kinds of good things there. And then Brethren History. This is important stuff. Been a part of Cup of Cold Water, the history of Brethren service. Everything you need to know about Brethren service that you weren't a part of is in that book. Over here we've got the Anna Mao book, 2 or 92, and certainly you wouldn't want to miss Shoes of Peace, letters to youth from peacemakers.
That's great, Russ. Listen, there's something for everybody at the Brethren Press bookstore here at NOAC this week, or maybe you'd like one of everything.
That's one of my favorites.
Good job.
Okay, so getting back to making fun of popular culture, there was a Geico commercial in 2009 it was so easy, even a caveman can do it. Anybody remember that? So we turned it into so easy a NOAC newsman can do it. And it took off pretty well. Our favorite spot from that campaign was when Larry and I decided that we could create a work of art to go in the art exhibit that year. It was our way of promoting the art exhibit, but doing it by making fun of us at the same time.
Beautiful pieces that people have created.
They really are.
Yes.
And we were so excited to know that this was happening, because through the transformation, the redemption that we have had, we wanted to share some artwork that we've worked on.
It was such an important moment of redemption for us the other day when Kathy and Eddie forgave us, that we have just felt called, to put that down in a piece. And we feel really good about this. And let us just show you here what we've drawn. This is the moment that happened. Down here, Chris, can you point there to there's Kathy and Eddie, and Dave is down there videotaping it, see? And there's Chris and I in our sackcloth and ashes. And it was such a special moment for us. I mean, just so meaningful. And we wanted to share this piece of art then with the art exhibit.
Well, I'm afraid maybe we might have to wait another year for this, because we've already got all these pieces of art that people have done and have them on display. And we don't want you to feel disappointed, because we do want to include your artwork. But I'm afraid we'll have to do it another time. My committee has already said this is it. So,
can you do something, maybe hold it or something with it, or keep it?
Well,
find a place to put it?
We'll try to find a spatial place for your artwork.
You've been watching NOAC News. Nothing other than the self-esteem of Larry and Chris was harmed during the making of this edition of NOAC News. As always, please watch responsibly. And by the way, Bev Petrie did not throw work of art into the trash can.
We had to make sure that we put that disclaimer at the end, that she didn't, it was not her idea to throw that away. But another example of making fun of the popular culture.
Now your NOAC weather.
I'm sorry, not yet, Dave. Hold on. There's this ubiquitous commercial for Cialis that is on all the time. It's been on since 2011 when we first made fun of it, and it was still on. The campaign is still going as of a couple months ago. They're still sponsoring the evening news. And in 2011, there had been a lot of rain early in the week, and we kept saying it's going to rain, it's going to rain, the buckets of rain are coming. And by Wednesday, the sun was shining, it was completely clear. And so we said, well, this creates confusion. And Larry and Chris were confused, and we thought, well, there's only really one way that doctors prescribe for confusion. And
now your NOAC weather with the NOAC News team.
Larry, what's going on? You look confused.
Well, we're supposed to do this weather report, Chris. All that water that was coming down, the last couple of days?
That rain?
Yeah, rain. Well, it's not coming down. And you had this report that said, we were going to get all this rain, to just be cats and dogs and buckets of rain, and there's no rain.
That's right.
So it's just so confusing to me.
That's
right. How do we do a weather report without rain?
That is confusing.
It is.
It doesn't take much for a moment to turn confusing. When that happens, you need to be ready. It can happen at any time, and when it does, 4 out of 5 doctors recommend NOAC News. NOAC News can turn a confusing moment into one that brings lasting satisfaction, clearer thinking, more awareness, a brighter and peppier you. NOAC News can turn confusion into sheer delight. Tell your doctor about your medical condition and all medication, and ask if you're healthy enough for NOAC News. Watch NOAC News if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure and actually make your confusion worse. Don't drink alcohol with NOAC News. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. To avoid long-term injury, seek immediate medical help if you experience confusion that lasts longer than 4 hours. If you have any sudden decrease in vision, stop watching NOAC News and call your doctor right away. Why ask your doctor about NOAC News? Because sooner or later, when the moment is confusing, you need to be ready. And NOAC News can make it happen.
Harry, why are we sitting out here in these tubs?
I don't know, Chris. I'm so confused.
Don't be confused. Watch NOAC News.
One of the most common questions we've gotten since then is, how in the world did you find 2 tubs and put them in the middle of a field? And Larry knows the answer to that.
This is a good example of how some of our bits get created. A couple of weeks before that NOAC in 2011, Dave calls up and says, Larry, I'm working on an idea about, I think we could do a parody on the Cialis commercials. But do you know where we could find a couple tubs and put them in a field? And I started thinking about some of the local contractors, you know, bathroom contractors and things. And then I thought about a brother and sister-in-law who live on a farm in Stanton, in the Shenandoah Valley there, real near Interstate 81. And I remembered that he told me, my brother-in-law told me one time that his dad had fixed up some rental properties and torn out a lot of the bathroom fixtures. And so I called him and I said, do you still have any of those old bathtubs, you know, that your dad tore out of the place? And he said, yeah, I've got a bunch of them over here. I said, well, do you think we could put a couple of them in the field, in your pasture? And we just need to use it to shoot a bit that we're doing for a conference. And he said, oh, okay. So on a couple of days before the Sunday that we would go down to come down to NOAC, we went out there with a tractor and a front end loader, and we found 2 tubs that we liked. And I sort of picked a place there in the field like you saw, where you saw it, and we put the tubs there. So then on Sunday, actually Saturday night, Chris and Dave come to our home there near Harrisonburg, and we didn't really know how the whole thing was going to go. We just said, okay, well, we're going to shoot this part, and we'll see. So we got up real early on Sunday morning and went out into that field, and we shot what you just saw at the end. Now, to confess, right after we did that, we decided to go to church at Stanton. Stanton Church of the Brethren, and sort of doing penance or something like that. But we had that piece that we shot, and then as we were driving down the road, we started talking about how we're going to develop that into a piece, and that's the way a lot of our things get going. But we didn't really finish it until we got here to Lake J and put it all together. And it's been, I guess, one of the most popular skits we've had.
Certainly one of the most visual, yeah.
Most visual, yeah.
No.
Go on?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of questions that could be asked, and we were hoping to have some time for you to ask those questions, but there are questions that we sometimes ask of ourselves. And one of those is, who writes the material? How do we get these things from the idea to the screen? And it really is a collaboration. It's a brainstorming session. Someone comes to an idea, and then someone says, well, how about if we do this? And someone says, well, we could do that, but maybe this. And it's just a brainstorming kind of session in which we end up with something that's a couple phrases that we shoot, and a lot of it has to do with Larry and Chris's ability to ad-lib. I mean, I may come up with a line that we want to use or a phrase, but then they will develop it, and a lot of what you see is just off the top of their heads, which is really remarkable.
I guess it is.
That's the only way I know how to describe it.
Is that a compliment?
I
I'm
think
not
so.
sure.
I don't know.
I think so.
I'm kind of confused about it.
No, don't. You never know where you'll end up if you get confused. Okay. The other question sometimes we ask is, have we gone too far? Is this really within the bounds of tastefulness? And we were confronted with that question a couple years ago when there was a a bird, what do you call it?
Birds of Prey. It was an afternoon activity.
Which similar to what's coming up a bit later this week. But there was an accident that happened while one of the birds was flying from one point to the other. And it was the perfect way to end a NOAC newscast, I thought. But we second-guessed ourselves and said, well, is this really appropriate? And I hesitate to share that with you tonight because you may say, no, Dave, it's not appropriate. And it wasn't then and it's not now. But I think it's worth, it's part of the questions that we ask ourselves. Have we gone too far? So it's a part of the process.
You've been watching NOAC News, TV images simulated, edited for content, and modified to fit your screen. Please spay and neuter all cell phones and turn off all pets. And as always, when watching NOAC News, please watch responsibly.
I don't know.
Accidents can happen.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of us have grown up or live on a farm, and those things happen.
Part of life.
Part of life.
Speaking of waste materials, another turning point in the development of NOAC News was the scenario of how Chris and Larry get to NOAC each year. How do we get here, and what do they do with us in the 2 years in between NOACs? So we call it the saga of NOAC News, and you may not know it, but there's been a long, involved story, kind of like a soap opera, sort of, that's advanced each year at NOAC, and it's a bit complicated because it's been 20 years now, but here's how it plays out. For those of you who've been year after year, you may know this.
2002,
see ya.
At the end of NOAC, Mary Julebaum and I decided we don't need Chris and Larry anymore.
Can you turn that down a little bit so he can talk over it?
So we
Thank
just
you.
threw them in the lake. In 2004, Mary and I looked for them because we need to do NOAC News that year, and we discovered them floating in the lake, and we fished them out. And at the end of that week, we needed to find something for them to do so they'd be available in 2006. And this is what Ken came up with. They got a job picking up after the geese. Another way of turning kind of an irritant into something that ended up being humorous, we found. So that was how we ended 2006. And by 2008, we discovered that they had made so much money from the methane and the droppings from the geese and ducks that they became millionaires. And they bought Lake Junaluska Assembly. We didn't really get permission to do this, but they changed the sign for Lake Junaluska.
Oh my gosh, we created a monster.
And as big shots who now own the facility, we filmed them talking about what some of their business dealings. If you can raise the audio a little bit so we can hear what they're saying. It was they ended up talking to someone who we hear in the news now.
No, Mr. Trump, I'm sorry. That bid is just too low. We're running a business here. We just can't handle that. Okay, thanks. We'll talk to you again. Bye.
I want you to look at the futures. I want to.
Gretchen, could you get the governor on the phone, please? Yeah, right away if we can. Okay. Thanks very much.
When you get the governor, you need to run over this forecast.
Yeah. They were just too busy. I guess they're big shots now. Everybody's seen their picture all over the country. There's no way they can do NOAC News this week.
No.
But they did, and at the end of that week, however, we had them being arrested for insider trading and going to jail.
Moguls deflated. Stover Brown
Again, we ended up with relying on the generosity of the staff at Lake Junaluska. They don't often get a call that says, would you please bring a deputy out and take 2 people to a waiting patrol car? However, that's what we did that year, and so that was where they needed to be for the next 2 years. And
he seemed a little too excited about doing that. I don't know.
You can bring the audio up a little bit now.
Probably with good behavior, which is questionable, but with good behavior, I would think they should be out in about 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
That's
When's
just
the next NOAC?
September 2008. Wow. Well, we'll know where they'll be.
So they were in jail. So they were in jail for 2 years, and then the following NOAC, we had them walking. They were in work release. They were on work release. NOAC. How do you know?
Now remember, Larry.
And at the end of that week, we discovered that they did not want to go back to jail. So they came up with a scenario in which they could escape, they could avoid going back to jail. Unfortunately, they end up having to put 2 other people in jail.
The new parole officer has never seen us.
Never seen us, that's right.
And so at noon, when we're supposed to meet them at the patrol car, they're just looking for 2 people in jumpsuits.
That's right, at noon, that's right. Okay, let's go.
Hey, Eddie! Hey!
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
Hi, we're doing good.
Did you guys hear about the Halloween in September costume party?
It's gonna be a
blast.
It's gonna be so much
But
fun.
we can't go.
We can't go. We don't have any costumes. Last time I went to a party, I went as a Rubik's Cube, and I didn't bring that costume along.
Yeah.
That's all right.
We've got costumes for you.
Yeah.
See the jailboat.
That would be great. Oh, that's really cool. But wait. We don't have any transportation over there.
Yeah, we.
Oh, but we've got that worked out too. So because we want to make it look realistic, we've arranged for the parole officer to take you over at noon today.
It'll look just so realistic when you get there. It'll be so much fun. Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, probably.
Sure. Just let's meet the car up at noon, right up above Stewart all day. Yeah,
We'll be there with our costumes.
Have a great time. Y'all deserve it.
You guys
Great.
can't go with us?
No, we can't go.
No.
I'm really sorry. Because it'd be fun
We
to go
gotta
with
pack
you,
up and
but-
everything.
We gotta pack up our stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Packing up or?
We're good.
Yeah.
okay.
Thanks.
Have a great time.
Have a great time.
Oh, this will be
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is gonna be
A
fun.
costume party.
And a ride in a real police car.
I know, I
that-
just can't wait.
Here's the ones we're supposed to pick up, 14.
It's almost noon. We gotta get. No, this is fun. This is gonna be
Larry
great.
and Chris said it's important to be here on time.
Hey, you're not riding to a party? We're going to a party, Kathy. All right. This is for the party. All right. To the party. This is the party bus. Party bus. All right. This is the party bus.
That's gonna
I guess that's the 2.
We'll take them and see.
Two years later, of course, they feel so bad about that they walk to NOAC in sackcloth and ashes. And we filmed this along Interstate 81 on the way to NOAC. And there they ended up finally being forgiven by Eddie and Kathy for what they had done. Later on, they made a bologna, a cookbook out of bologna. And of course, they left it in the refrigerator for 2 years, and it turned into this. And they had to raise money to pay for the storage fees.
Yeah, and there's.
So they turned it into ice cream.
Yes. All right.
Good job.
And eventually got hired.
How's that?
That looks great. I love it. Yeah.
Got hired picking up algae to make ice cream at the end of the 2015 session. Now, of course, we all know that since then, the FDA shut down their ice cream operation because it was unfit to eat. So that's where we stand at the end of 2000, or at the beginning of 2017. So that's the scenario which we had to advance each year, and sometimes it was a little difficult and took some creativity, but we got them here this year again.
And a bit far-fetched at times.
A bit far-fetched.
Mm. So, do we have time to take some questions now? Where are we at on time?
What time is
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We can take some questions.
Questions that you might have, which Kathy has the mic. Our intern and former star actress has the microphone. And if you have any questions, the things that we didn't cover that you'd like to ask, we'll do our best to try to avoid the question. We'll try to answer the question.
So, Chris, would you recommend that it helps with your intellect if you blow balloons up on your head?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Do you think it improves your intellect?
That it improves my intellect?
Blow up balloons on your head.
Well, the oxygen deprivation is probably not as healthy for my brain as you might want it to be.
Might explain some things.
Any other questions? Anything else you're wondering? There's one down here.
This is for Dave. I've always liked your voice in all the videos, so I'm enjoying seeing the face to the voice. And do you do other voiceover things for other organizations besides the Cobb stuff?
Well, I have a radio news background, and so I did radio news back in the 70s, and then television news back in the 80s, and then started to do my own narrations for the productions that I've done since '87, mostly because it was accessible and easy to change things if I needed to change something, rather than hire a studio or find a professional, a professional narrator. It was just easy to grab a microphone and do it that way. And so it just seemed a simple way of getting a narration for most of the productions. But I don't do anything other than video production kinds of things.
But
that you produce yourself, usually.
Sorry, you're being a little modest, because it does point out Dave's how multi-talented he is. I mean, he can do every phase of video production, from the start, shooting it, editing, narrating, and putting it out. He's done so many things for the church, like that really
because
positive.
I didn't trust anybody. Because I didn't trust anybody else to do it. If you want something done right, you do it yourself. That's kind of the philosophy.
Yes.
What do the other two of you do in your real life?
This is my real life.
We don't do anything other than NOAC News. That's basically it.
No. So I worked in public television. I was a producer-director for the local PBS station in Wichita for 3.5 years, and did a show celebrating ethnic diversity of Kansas, and then became a stay-at-home dad, and then after that went to seminary, graduated from Bethany, as he's already talked about, went into clinical pastoral education at a hospital in Wichita, and have just finished that, and so now I'm seeking a chaplain position. Oh, thanks.
Larry and Chris, I want to know if you still have my jumpsuit. I would like to have my jumpsuit back, because I think I can get it zipped up now that I've lost some weight.
That had to be returned to the Virginia Department of Corrections when I got home. Sorry, Eddie. I'm semi-retired. We live on a farm outside of Harrisonburg in Rockingham County. My wife Sharon is a retired Spanish teacher. I have 3 children, Jeremy, Isaac, and Timothy, and 3 grandchildren in South Carolina. I'm a member of the First Church of the Brethren in Harrisonburg. I should have some friends out here that might clap now. And enjoy my ministry there with them.
Anything else? Oh.
One of our big inspirations was watching David Letterman late at night. Everything's funny late at night, you know? So, yeah, Johnny Carson, sure. Yeah.
This is for Dave. What was one of your most difficult assignments, and which ones have you enjoyed the most outside of NOAC News?
Oh, outside of NOAC News? Well, probably one of the most difficult assignments was taking Bibles that were produced into Sudan and ending up on a plane that kind of crashed as it landed and ended up upside down. I was telling that story to people at the Hagerstown Church the other day and realized that was 17 years ago. And so there's no way people remember that anymore. But that was a significant experience for me, and probably one of the most traumatic was seeing how a plane can crash land on a riverbed, and everyone can survive, and the villagers can actually celebrate it with a parade and a celebration. That experience with Lester and Esther Bolin and other people who had worked on that translation project was probably the most challenging experience.
And you actually had the wherewithal to turn the camera on.
The camera was shooting out the window, and it didn't shut off, and so I was able to record the dust flying and the flipping upside down, and ended up sending that footage to Real TV, which was a syndicated reality show back in the day, and they ended up doing a little story on it, which was kind of nice because it gave me an opportunity to talk about God's miracles and being able to protect us in that situation. So that was neat.
As long as you're telling the backstory, I'm wondering what kind of strings you had to pull to get a police car.
You know, one of the things that I was going to be doing here in a few minutes anyway was thanking the Lake J staff, because they've been so cooperative in all of our hijinks. I mean, letting us use their police officers, and they agreed to do all of that stuff, letting us use the administrators, letting us use their offices there where we were calling Mr. Trump, and when we've gone and gotten ice cream and gotten ice cream scoops, and I mean throwing stuff off of the terrace and like doing our best to clean it up, but probably somebody had to come and fine-tune that a little bit. And I don't know, we've dragged hoses around. We had to get buckets and stuff. We had to, for scraping up the geese poo. And, Ken from Stewart, he was director of Stewart, now he's director of all of conference services. He was so good to be on camera with us and got us that stuff. There's been a lot of times that housekeeping staff has lent us garbage bags, just whatever we need. They've just been so generous to help us do all these different things.
That was a security police vehicle.
Yeah.
It was not from the township, but it was from one of the Lake Junaluska Assembly vehicles, which they made available to us.
So let's go ahead and give them a hand.
They really
And so while we're on that note, I just want to say the AV guys here in the building, because they have a script of what we were doing, but all of this coordination of what's going up and what's going down and whose mic should be on and all that stuff. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
And the other thank yous that I would like to make would be to the Church of the Brethren staff, the people who planned NOAC, for them to conclude that humor is something that should be a part of a conference is pretty unusual. And I don't know of a lot of church conferences that have a whole department designated just to bring lightheartedness. I used to sometimes say lightheadedness, but it's lightheartedness.
Definitely when you're blowing up a rubber glove, it's lightheadedness.
Well, it could be. But just, I think we need to appreciate the staff, the ABC staff, the Brethren Health and Welfare staff, and now the whatever they're called now, older adult ministries staff,
Intergenerational
yeah.
ministry.
For them to agree that humor is part of a gathering like this, sorry, Debbie.
Well, at least we can laugh about it.
Is commendable, I think, and I would like to, to thank them for that.
Yeah.
That notion.
As of the newscast that you saw before we did the program tonight, that was our 90th newscast since NOAC News started. And it was our 406th NOAC News segment. Those three made it 406. And throughout that time, NOAC participants and audiences, present and past, have smiled and laughed and see us other places and say, you know, we're here for you, and just have made us feel so good about what we try to do. Really, in many ways, you're here for us, and we appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'd like to close this evening with, I think, what we would consider to be a special gift. A gift for us and a gift that we'd like to pass on to you. Many of you here, most of you, if not all of you, know of our friend Ken Miedema, who's performed at many Church of the Brethren conferences. 2 years ago, Ken was here. And you know, one of the things that Ken does is he allows people to tell their stories, and then he sings their song. So we decided, because of what we were doing tonight, we would share our story with Ken Miedema. And he wrote us a song, and Dave put video with it. And that's how we would like to close tonight, with the world premiere of what we would call You Can't Snooze or You'll Miss the NOAC News.
NOAC begins. You gotta wonder, are they back or did they finally go under? Stay awake and do not snooze. You'll find out on the NOAC News. Helping you sort the truth from the lies. Sounds to stun your ears and sights to stun your eyes. Stay awake and do not snooze. Catch it on the NOAC News. 1996, they made us so embarrassed. We felt hassled, we felt harassed. So throw them in the lake, we don't need them anymore. Do you suppose they'll drown or will they make it to the shore? 2 years after that, the boys were unemployed. Hopes for being famous newsmen finally destroyed. So we had them cleaning up after the geese around the lake. Made money selling meth, they done got rich upon the take. But they came back at great sacrifice. Didn't even ask a price. Just to come to you and help you not to snooze while you catch it on the NOAC News. Then to our dismay, we got the awful news. Our boys had been arrested. It gave us all the blues. They paid off some cops and finally got paroled. Just in time to get back here now. Is this getting old? Finish out your sentence, boys, it's off to jail you go. Cliss and Larry played a trick, and wouldn't you know, 2 other brethren leaders got thrown into the clink. Our guys are really very clever fellows, don't you think? Only one reason for this subterfuge. Only one reason, but the reason is huge. They want to be with you to help you never snooze when you catch it on the NOAC News. Sackcloth and ashes walking down the road. They got forgiveness, now everything was good. They went to Germany where the brethren thing began, but they had to come back here because they did not understand. Oh my goodness, stories we could tell of trouble and of tragedy, but it always comes out well. No matter how they blunder, no matter what they do, every conference they are coming back to be with you. Committed to the real news, never to the fake. You will know what's going on all around the lake. Stay awake and do not snooze. You'll catch it on the NOAC News. When you go to get your ice cream tonight and you realize it does not quite taste right, this you ought to know, that the ice cream they make comes from the algae that grows in the lake. No matter how weird Washington may get, those media people, they ain't seen nothing yet. Hire Chris and Larry, the reporters at the lake, and they'll have the country laughing, laughing till they ache. Only one reason they make this sacrifice, only one reason they come without a price, just to keep you wide awake and make sure you don't snooze when you're catching it on the NOAC News.
Watch NOAC News.
Who knows what's going to happen in the years ahead? Nobody is quite certain, for no one has said. Will it be a story full of grief and tears that finally brings those great reporters coming right back here? Will they have learned perhaps a lesson or two? How to be serious reporters like most reporters do? Will they be as silly as they've always been before? Will there be the same old news, or is there something more? You don't want to miss a moment, not even one, to know what's going on and what's being done. So stay wide awake and do not snooze. Catch it on the NOAC News. You're gonna get it on the NOAC News.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.